Welcome to my humble little office. My name is JThe. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 15th, 2023 at approximately 4:29 p.m. PST. Now, I return for a reason, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I call myself a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the ones I personally live with and I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. So this isn't a question of here's a couple of ideas that may work for you. Here's a couple of guidelines that I personally am living by. Now, before we get into it, I'm just going to start off with exactly what I wrote in the chat room there. Our apologies. We missed the existence of Friday. Hence, we're discussing orbs tonight. Yesterday, I was thinking I was on Saturday already, which apparently was not the case. Okay. Now, before we go any further here, Eternity, welcome aboard. You've gone in with the gold today. Hopefully your day's been going well. Now, you'll notice my background is drastically different. It's because I'm in the middle of moving the office into the back room, and this is set up at my dining room table. Okay, which does explain why I have so many of these little blue bins. All of these things here are all the figures I've been working on. Okay, in case, and that isn't all of them. You can only see two shelves. There's a third shelf down here that has more. Okay. So, I mean, there's a fair chunk of them going on. But, as I said, we are going to look at orbs today. Okay. Now, right off the bat, and all 5 of the races I'm about to identify are in Races of the World, the first volume. Okay. And I am adding pictures of the different species. The ships I will be working on next, that might be an idea, which ought to be entertainingly simplistic. Might be an idea. I'm not quite ready with the book to come out, but that's okay. We're already in final edit for it. But hopefully you guys are doing well enough. And again, if you do have a question, do me a favor and put the question in all caps. It makes it easier for me to find the thing. Okay. It's not yelling in my world. In my world, that's just simply putting your hand up and saying, hey, I got a question for you. Because sometimes the chat room moves a little quick for me, and I've only got the one monitor with this setup. When I move it in the back, I'll be back up to 3 monitors, which means I'll actually be able to track things a little easier. But you have 3 different races when we're looking at orbs. And Adam, you are in with the silver. Welcome aboard. Hopefully things are going well on your end. When you're catching orbs on camera, the most common thing that anybody catches that looks like an orb is in truth neither extraterrestrial nor a race. It is simply the way light catches a dust particulate in the air. Henry, you're in with the bronze. How you doing? Glad you could join us. Particles are the most common type of orb to spot in a camera. Okay, but they do, and they've got very specific characteristics. That is not any fun at all there, Adam. Hey, Joe, how are you? My apologies for yesterday. We ended up with a real screwball setup. I lost my entire day. Or more to the point, I missed the identification of the day. So I mean, when we look at the orbs, yeah, this is not the way this is going to stay. See, I can do this, I can do tonight here, but my son isn't home tonight. So, of course, what you're looking at is actually my living room. When I said I live a very simple life, I wasn't actually kidding. But that thing behind me is actually my living room. Okay. And if you notice, just to give you a real quick walkthrough at this clock here, that was a gift. That's an imitation grandfather. It's actually electric, like it's actually battery operated. But I've had that thing since 1979. And then if you take a look at the two poodles, the little white pup down here, where are we? There, and the one up here on top, those both belong to my grandparents. And that belonged to my grandfather. I just ended up having them. So they're still sticking around. This is my cold caffeine. Yeah, I know it's bad for me, and it might eventually kill me. But what the heck, I've died other ways. And who do we got here? Oh, I missed that. I missed doing that. Got eternity. And Joe, you are in with honorable mention. And we just had iVoices come in. No, we had to move. That's cute there, iVoice. No, we had to move the computer because our son is moving back, and therefore I had to clear the room out. But this whole setup will be moved into my back room. So this is the way it'll be possibly tomorrow. I wouldn't hold my breath on it being tomorrow. No, it won't be tomorrow. Wait a minute. Hold that thought. Tomorrow I will possibly be set up the same way. I don't know. It depends on when I can work out. May have to move it, but we'll figure it out. In any event, what you're looking at, this is the end of the table that has all of that is the figures that I paint, that I've shown you some of the figures from, and I might get to some of those later. But when we look at orbs, okay, before we go into that, let's see here. Joe, what did you write here? There we go. Oh, there you go. Joe's just saying he was having complications, but had another visitor upstairs. And understand, in Joe's case, Joe doesn't have regular visitors show up upstairs. He's gone with the incorporeal ones. Okay, but you'll notice you're starting to be able to identify not so much them by name, but the different identifiers of the people coming to visit you, which is a great thing. And look at that, we are 8 minutes into the stream, and we've already got 8 people in the room. Okay, now when we take a look at the races, and I should actually go and get that book, so give me half a second. And like I said, I can't actually read things by hand because I don't know about you guys. I'm not psychokinetic yet. Psycho maybe, kinetic not yet. So just give me half a second here. Should have grabbed these beforehand, but whoa, what do we got here? Yeah, walk out of the room. Well, we're working on updating it. Yeah. Oh, no, that does not say update. That says upvote the stream. I appreciate that, Henry. Thank you so much for that. The 5 races that I've got, like I said, the most common of the orbs that you'll see are actually in photographs, are dust mites. How about if we bring that back over here where we can actually reach it? Okay, that probably will help clear the communication line up a bit. Okay, they are the most common. Now, you will never on a personal phone, personal camera, you're not about to see the Anunnaki ships. Now, the Anunnaki ship, the reason you'll never see it on a standard camera is because they happen to be the size of a planetoid. Yes, they are orb in shape, but they are way too big to get on this planet, at least without destroying the planet. Not to mention what it would do with the ship. Okay, now people have seen this ship, seen the Anunnaki ship coming into our galaxy, but people keep going, it's an asteroid, and I'm like, if a asteroid that size were to come into our galaxy, it would pull every planet off orbit. Net result, you'd be dealing with a lot of dead residents. The only way a vehicle a body that size could come into our solar system is if it were in fact an operating system with gravitational buffers, which is how it can come in without upsetting the rest of the natural order of things. So the Anunnaki, you're not going to see their ship on a standard camera. Okay. The Kinlar tend to have other people build their ships. Let me just pull up the information on the Kinlar here, which is why I grabbed this funny little thing. That's the book I was referring to, and right now I think it's actually more pages now. Let me just take a look at that, because it might just well give you accurate information. Races of the Worlds. That one, we go there. Yep. It is now up to 87 pages. Okay. This one is 64. Okay. I've started final addition to it. So we minimize that. Okay. I've started the final edition on that, and the final expansion on it, and the final edit. So right now, this is 64 pages. The second printing will be 87 plus. Okay. And I'll be working on that some more tonight. I can absolutely understand that, Joe, and I really do appreciate your contributions, because you are right. This show is about having a safe place for people to talk about the experiences they're having without worrying about the judgment of it. Okay. And the fact that so many of the people in this room are as supportive as they are just makes it that much easier. That much easier to work with. But I really do appreciate your opening up there, Joe. I know for me, it's really appreciated. For you, I'm hoping that it's helping. Okay. And a lot of the time, like, the only reason I personally use Facebook is because, well, I know how it works. But I am looking into getting other things adjusted. Now, I was going to look up the Kinlar here. And again, I'm adding information to this as we go along. So when we go here, Quadland, the Kinlar, there we go. Funny thing is, the Kinlar they're kind of a cross between ancient race and Offworlder. They originated as an Offworld race. Okay, but millennia back, some of them ended up here. Okay, and that said, they now get, because they still got connections, they get other races to actually help, give them at least short range. Okay, but they don't use the same automatic drive, if you will. In all fairness, iVoices, as far as the aliens, it's nothing abnormal. Okay. From their standpoint, it is simply another culture with another set of beliefs, another set of in many cases, self-restriction, which is not a bad thing. They don't see it as a negative. Okay, but it is simply this race's evolutionary standpoint. Well, I got one question for you there, Joe. When you pick up that scent, does it elicit any sort of fear or apprehension? Okay. And no, you don't actually have to answer that to me. If you don't choose to answer that in the chat room here, that's okay. If it elicits a negative reaction from you, then the most effective thing to do is tell it is no longer welcome there, as only those spirits of the light are welcome. Okay, but that's only if you don't like if it makes you feel edgy. If you don't feel edgy about it, then quite frankly, talk to it in yes or no terms. Okay, but talk to the woman in a way that she can respond either a definitive yes or no. Okay, the most common place that you will feel, the most common way that you'll feel that connection. Oh, okay. The most common place you'll feel that connection is across the back of your arms or across the back of your neck. Kind of a tingly feeling, much like when your hand first wakes up after it's fallen asleep. But if you don't have a problem with the feel, if it doesn't bring you a sense of fear or a sense of violation, then absolutely talk to it in yes or no questions. Okay, things like, do I know you, or have we met? Have we met before? Okay. So something that it can give you a yes or a no. The stronger the tingling sensation, the more definitive the yes. The no response most often is a no. Okay. There are some variations on that, but it depends on the spirit. Okay, that's the easiest thing. The other thing, of course, is when you feel it, thank it, and thank her for revealing herself to you in a way that you can both accept and understand. In this fashion, you'll be able to make a much stronger connection with her. Okay, now when we take a look at the Anunnaki. Okay, now bear in mind, somebody asked me about a natural Anunnaki hybrid. They claim to be a natural Anunnaki hybrid. Well, there's a problem with that. Anunnaki are anywhere from 25 to 30 feet tall. Now, a natural, by human standpoint, half-breed would literally kill the human. Okay, it's just that simple. Okay, are there Anunnaki around? Not walking around on the planet that I'm aware of. Okay. Where are we? Derek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, I'm looking at my image here, and I mean that's a terrifying thought, but all of this has to go. All of this will go. They're staying put. It's like I've told people, even told my other half. Yeah, the beard will end up going because it goes when I get bored. When she gets up here, I will end up turning around and removing it permanently. But the signbirds are mine. So I'm pretty certain that that's a carryover from my father, because that was the one thing about Dad. Until he got really sick, he had well-developed sideburns, the whole 9 yards. But the Kinlar started off-world, and this is stuff that's being added to the second printing, okay, of the Kinlar. They did start off-world, and they still have people off-world, but they ended up with a ship landing here centuries ago. Well, quite frankly, millennia ago. Okay. And therefore, there are a few of them still around. Okay. I shouldn't say still around so much as there are a few of them that their offspring are still around. Where are we? Joe's going, I don't feel edgy when it happens. It feels in such a... Oh, there we go. I feel such a calming state of mind. This is a great thing, Joe. Therefore, we go back to the original. When you feel her next, okay, thank her for arriving, and thank her for revealing herself to you in a way that you can both accept and understand. In this way, you can make a slightly better connection in dealing with her. But like I said, when you go to talk to her, okay, absolutely talk in terms that she can respond with a yes or a no. Okay, with a very clear yes or no. You don't want to ask her, is your hair short or long? Because the answer will likely be yes. Okay, it's either short or long. If it's no, it means she's bald. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, that would be the Pleiadians there, Derek. Pleiadians are a blue race. I mean, number one, they're totally blue. You'll never see a purebred Pleiadian on Earth. Okay, because the atmosphere on Earth will kill a purebred Pleiadian. Okay, but they're the ones that are known as the intergalactic healers. But the reality of it is they are also extremely neutral. Okay. Now, when we look at the Kinlar, they've got other people that build their ships for them. They usually are, they're a relatively large size in some ways. From a human standpoint, you're looking at about 15 to 20 feet. Okay, they're not long-range ships, by the way. Because they just don't have the atmospheric transfer capability. Okay, so these guys, what you'll usually find if you see a Kinlar ship, number one, that you may be seeing them as I believe the current term is a UAP, underwater phenomenon. No, a UAP. Unknown aquatic phenomena, I think is what it boils down to. Because they are in some of the underground bases, but they originated off-world. It's just some of them are now trapped here. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Derek's just filling us in here. He says it's called a USO. Oh, presumably meaning unidentified submersible object. Okay. Like I said, I'm no researcher, so some of the terms I'm ending up missing. But the Kinlar, if you're seeing one of their ships, yes, they are orb-shaped. But they are usually, you're likely seeing them in or around water. Okay. They are not designed for long-term outer space exploration. There are races that do that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Then you've got your Talons. Okay. Now the Talon are the ant-like people. Okay. But their ships aren't technically, they're not exactly orb-shaped. They are, but around the orb, their legs come up from below, wrap completely over top for both re-entry into the atmosphere or entry into the water. So they are actually trifib. Space, air, well, actually they're quadrifib. because the Talons have ships, and you won't see these very often on Earth. Okay, as a matter of fact, I don't know if there's any existing pictures of them. Yeah, Derek's going, yes, and Dave Scott said the other night they added another letter to it, but I forget us military keeps changing the names of alien craft. Yeah. Oh, I see. The USO is now called something else. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. In case you hadn't noticed, and humans are not the only ones that do this. Take a package, something, doesn't matter what it is. You change the name on it, put it in a brand new package, call it something else. A prime example of the level of this bizarre behavior was about a decade ago. The United States was admitting that they had a massive obesity problem. Okay, that Americans had a massive obesity problem. So they solved it. Okay, because they had it listed. You're obese if you weigh this much. But there were so many Americans overweight, primarily because of fast food, in case you hadn't figured it out. Okay, that the American government, from what I gathered, picked a really cute way of solving the problem. They just decimated the number of people that were overweight. They changed the rating and said if you're over 500 pounds overweight, then you're no longer obese. You're now morbidly obese. Net result, overnight, 2 million people dropped off the obese line. Now, this sounds like all of a sudden Americans all of a sudden became really healthy and health conscious. What it actually meant was those 2 million people dropped off the obese line, and all of a sudden you've got this morbidly obese line that went from 0 to 2 million overnight. Okay, now the Talons, like I said, they have ships that literally, they're six-legged ships. When the legs unfold, they clap around it. But because of the way they're articulated, when they unfold, when they go to walk, they come down into 6 legs. Okay, and away they go. Now, I have never heard of a report, and maybe one of you guys out there has heard a report of a ship that looks like an orb with 6 legs. Might be mistaken for an oversized spider. Okay. Now that's the Talon, and like I said, their ships tend to be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet in diameter. Okay, so you're looking at the size of a large truck, measuring all the way around. Okay, that's your Talon. Now the other thing with the Talon is if you see them overhead. Okay, if you've ever seen a ship that looks like it's got flashing red, blue, green, yellow, and sometimes orange, but multiple lights coming down from above the clouds that look like spotlights. Okay, that is in all likelihood a Talon ship. Okay, there aren't many disco balls in orbit as far as I've been able to tell. Then we have the fourth of the races that are in this area, and there was a picture on YouTube the other day, a real short video that pretty much showed it all, and that's the Taurian ship. Now, Taurians are an arachnid appearing race, and yes, when I talk about arachnid appearing, I am referring to mandibles, 8 limbs, 8 eyes. Okay, they look like spiders, and yes, they are in the initial races of the worlds in the second printing. Now, their orb is completely reflective. There is a video, or there was a video on YouTube about a month ago, if that long, where it showed this thing coming out of the background. And I know when my son watched it, when he first saw it, he saw it coming up. He thought it was a baseball racing towards the camera. And then it came into view, and it was a great big reflective ball. There was no way I could give you a measurement on the size of this particular one because there was no reference in the video. Okay, not that I recall anyway. But the Taurians are not a hostile people. They are hostile capable, certainly, but they are not hostile themselves. I'm just looking. Derek says, picked up a signal somewhere in deep space. That's what Gary Nolan of Stanford University said the other day. It's not surprising there was a signal picked up, given the amount of stuff going on out there. Now the Taurians, again, they moved. It was funny. They were being chased by, I think, F-15s, and the F-15s couldn't keep up with them. They were pulling away. Thankfully, Taurians are not a hostile race. Okay. Then you've got the other orbs that you might see. Okay. Which are, they are literally other mechanical orbs you may see are their robotic probes. The Galactic Consortium has them. Okay. The Corvanians have them. And yes, the Corvanians will be in, I'm going to be adding them to book 2 as well, to volume 2 as well. Okay. And then let's see if I've got that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5, technically the 6 primary, because the dust molecules that you see floating in the air will look like an orb, but you got to remember, the dust molecules won't change color ever. Something about them being dust. Okay, you get to figure that one out. Not to worry, just trying to destroy my insides while I'm doing this. Although I do remember some genius decided that this was a good gas additive to save your car all kinds of gas mileage. Which, I agree. I mean, you think about it, that's almost straight sugar. Great for somebody that was told they were diabetic, and 2 months later, the doc said, where's the diabetes? I looked at her and I went, I don't have the time for it. She goes, well, that doesn't work. And she said, fine, you figure it out. But those are, now, do understand, with the Talon, the Talon ships will change color. What do we got? Yeah, no doubt. I mean, let's face it, Derek. The other thing and this is going to sound like an ad, but the other thing I find this is really good for, and I use it myself. This is why I know it works. Is you take one of these, this works like an absolute charm for cleaning the bathroom. But remember, if you're cleaning counters with that, you got a lot of washing to do, or you end up with real sticky counters. But when it comes to sink plugs and what have you, that'll eat through just about anything. Which begs the question of why the heck I'm drinking it. Well, look at the bright side. I'm no longer adding rye to this. Of course, that doesn't stop me from adding rye to ginger ale once or twice a year. But, when you're looking at the orbs are, by their very nature, much more aerodynamic. They will change direction in a heartbeat. And this is why they can outmaneuver any terrestrial vehicle. Okay. Unless you want to call a basketball a vehicle or a baseball. And I mean, if you go back a number of decades, watch a basketball in the hands of the Harlem Globetrotters. Okay, now there was an orb that could change direction in a heartbeat. which I don't think has anything to do with orbs that you're referring to. Okay. So we are looking at these are 5 different versions now in volume 2 of Races of the Worlds. Yeah, pretty much so, Joe. Joe just saying, well, we all die someday. In my case, I've had a lot of runs at it. 4 before I hit 10, 5 after, and 1 that I'm still debating whether I died or not. What I do know is to drive from Rutland in Kelowna all the way down to downtown Kelowna cannot be done in a minute and a half. Okay. Okay, now iVoice is asking, do people really experience heaven or hell during a near-death experience? The answer is, yeah, some of them actually do. Heaven and hell do, in fact, in my opinion, exist. Okay. As does that neat little room where you lay in a coffin until you completely decompose, or that plot of land that you lay in until the worms eat you completely. All of these really exist. Okay, and I can tell you this because you'll forget it when you die anyway. Okay, when you get over there, it's a question of where you believe you're going, and it is absolutely hilarious in my eyes. I see it happen a lot. Once you pass away, okay, going into the light is not a question of, oh, you have to go into the light or you're trapped here. It's a question of you're going from being dead to being alive in essentially the biggest gully you'll ever run into. A lot of noise, a lot of people, a lot of laughing, a lot of talking, no arguing, no fighting. Okay, lot of celebration. And yes, a lot of light. But when you get in there, my people quite regularly, I see this happen. They come out of the fog into this gala. And you listen to them, they walk in and they'll be stunned for the first little bit. And they're like, but I thought I was supposed to go to hell. I was told I was going to hell. And somebody in the crowd will do this. They do it all the time. It's hilarious. They'll look at the person and go, and they'll, yeah, but rye and beer just doesn't work well, in my opinion. Vodka and beer, not bad, because vodka doesn't change the flavor much. But no, they get down there and they turn around and it's like, but I was supposed to be in hell. Downstairs, first left, hop in and enjoy yourself. Okay. Same thing about heaven. It's just go up the stairs, you'll find it. Right. Now, do understand it is set up so everybody can go where they feel they belong. If you feel you're supposed to be tortured because you've been told, oh, I'm a bad person for believing in the metaphysical. I love that one. God created everything. He created nothing evil. But believing in the metaphysical, believing in exactly what you're worshiping is evil. Believe in the unknown. And if you do that, you're going to go to hell. I get a little lost on the translation on that. But you go down there, and here's what they don't tell you. Yes, you can be there for eternity. You can be. It depends on you. As soon as you figure out that you don't have to stay in that place, and rest assured, I've tried the hot tubs in hell. They are way, way, way too hot. Okay. Once you figure it out, all you have to do is tell them to knock it off, you're leaving. And they'll go, okay. Heaven has the same issue. It just doesn't have as bad a hot tub. Bad news, Derek. Aliens have souls. Oh, heavens, I go down there. I'll get to that in just half a sec there, iVoice. Every entity, every energy that has life has a soul. Ancient races, humans, aliens, off-worlders, plants, animals, elementals, as in entities made up of specific elements. Okay. Yeah, there's been a lot of things you've been told about the Greys that doesn't add up. Number one, Greys do have a soul. They are not on the verge of dying. They are not clone, they are not overcloned and therefore degrading. They are not androids. They are, they've got kind of an odd history to them. And I'm still trying to decipher with their scientists, trying to understand, but it seems that they are almost a common denominator, a common link between the insectivore races and the reptilians, the reptilian-like races. Okay, because they have real strong qualities on both types, but they are definitively not soulless, nor are they clones, nor, by the way, are they robots. Although, much like humans have built robots that look like humans, Greys have built robots that look like Greys. Okay. Now, I voice asked, how many times have you been threatened with hell? Well, that depends. By the Christian community, I gave up counting. Okay. Because growing up, I was the son of the devil incarnate, which is really neat. I mean, it's an interesting concept. And I have used that to my advantage in one case in particular. But Christians have told me I am the son of the devil himself. Which, I'm like, okay, then how about if you don't argue with me? What do you think? But as far as any of the ancient races threatening me or God himself, no. Not even Satan has bothered threatening me with hell. I keep joking about it and telling people, look, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over, so they keep sending me back. Although it's kind of like a revolving door for me down there. And yes, if it sounds like I make light of hell, it's only because I find it kind of comical. But, and do understand something here. There was one other race that shows up that looks like an orb, only because it is one, and that's the Vrosic. Okay, the Vrosic look like an orb. The Umion, which are not in Races of the World, look very similar to the Vrosic, just a different color. Okay, Vrosic tend to be a darker color. The Umion tend to be a much lighter color, but they're still energy. Okay, in the Umion's case, they happen to be light-based. Okay, they are a photonic-based entity. Needless to say, they give off their own natural light. Okay. Now, with that in mind, going back to that, Derek, this neat little question, did God create aliens? If you believe God created everything, okay. Yeah, I voice, not even close. First of all, that would indicate I worshiped one of them. And I don't. Second thing you got to realize is you might want to look into what true Satanists actually believe, because you'll find, and I've got the information in a file somewhere in my computer that backs it up. But you'll find, if you look at the 11 dictates of the Church of Satan and the 10 Commandments, you'll find they're almost identical, with the one striking difference that the Church of Satan, the true Church of Satan, okay, the true Church of Satan believes that, yes, magic exists, God created magic, but if you're going to use magic to get ahead, go right ahead. Absolutely go ahead. Acknowledge it. It's not evil. Acknowledge that you used it. Because if you use it to get ahead and you deny you used it, you'll lose everything you got via it. Thank you so much, Derek. I do appreciate that. Rest assured, the reality is, do I worship anybody? No. That said, I also don't see anybody as better than me, nor me as better than anybody else. We all have our hiccups. And rest assured, I got some pretty severe ones. Okay. But on the plus side, no offense taken. Like I said, I've been called the son of the devil himself, which is cute. I remember I was walking through the park one day. Joe goes, this is really a really loopy question, but how often do aliens kidnap a female, bring them on board, and have fun with them? Oh, we're not even going to try and count that. That would be along the same lines as how many times do humans go down to the red light district in Sweden? Okay. To pick up a female or a male for that matter and have fun with them. We're just not going to try and count that one. Because yes, it does happen. There are people that are literally dating off-worlders, and they literally have that kind of a relationship. Okay, so much as it may, I do appreciate the question there, though, Joe, because it's a question that many people voice in the back of their head and just don't have the I don't know if it's the courage or the strength or whatever it is, but they don't have the drive enough to ask. And there's a lot of people that have been thinking that, but it's very true. And I just can't give you a number. And I'm sure you can understand why at this point. Okay. That would almost fall under the category because of such of a vast number. And do understand, the ones that do that are primarily humanoid. Okay. There are not many non-humanoid races that will interact in that fashion with a humanoid race for obvious reasons. But this is just one of those neat little things that you look at. Now, of course, there are some races that'll pick you up and you really don't want them picking you up. You take a look at it. The Talon, you don't want them picking you up. The Teklik, which are not orbs, okay, they don't even have orb-shaped ships. Okay, but the Teklik, as a matter of fact, I wonder if I've actually written that in here. If not, it will end up added to the next one. Skim back here. That came out really well. Pardon my speaking, because that was garbage. Yes. There we are. There we go. Yeah, I thought they did. The Teklik actually have a needle-shaped ship. Okay. But you don't want them picking you up anyway, because that's just not going to be a fun run. Okay. So, when we're looking at the orbs, we are looking at, and I'm talking orbs as in round. Now, you got to remember, when you start taking a look, when you take a look at the Zotar, which are the ones I forgot to mention, and they're sitting right here at the top of the list. The Zotar, they operate ships that are only about that big around. They are mechanical, manned ships. But you got to remember, the Zotar are only about that tall. How you doing, Carl? Glad you could join us. The Zotar, to give you an idea of what a Zotar looks like, and you think the question was loopy there, Joe, you'll love this one. The Zotar, if you're in Canada and you've ever seen the TELUS commercials, and you remember, or not the TELUS commercials, but the Geico commercials, that little guy there, the gecko, looks very much like a Zotar. Okay. And needless to say, these guys are not frontline combatants. Not if they can avoid it anyway. Because their ships are literally only 5 inches in diameter. Okay. And that's why if you're a Zotar and you're over 3 inches tall, you're not becoming a pilot. You just won't have room. But those are simple one-man research vessels. Okay, they are short range. They are not designed for long range capability. As you can well imagine, even with an air purifier, okay, a ship this size does not have a lot of oxygen available. And yes, the Zatarian do breathe air, much like humans do. Okay, so I mean, this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including the probes, you're looking at 6. And 6 different types, plus the 7th being the little dust motes that you see in photographs. Okay, hopefully this is making sense. Now, bear in mind, people, none of these guys are trying for combat. If you think of the one ship there that I was talking about earlier, the Taurian. Okay, the Taurian ship. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't go to hospital there. How you do? I mean, I realize you're in hospital there, Carl, but are you healing at least? You know, pneumonia is just a pain in the neck, by the way. Had it years ago. Actually, in all fairness, I had double pneumonia. And I went in because I was oddly having trouble breathing. So I went into the walk-in clinic. This is like, we're talking 20 years back now. Went in and the doc asked if I'd been to the doctor, if I had a family doctor. I looked there and I went, probably 10 years ago. And the guy goes, okay, so you don't have a family doctor. So do you have any idea what you're dealing with? I said, well, I'm pretty certain I've got walking pneumonia again. So he checks out my lungs and he stops and he goes, well, I'll give you this. You do have pneumonia, or more to the point, double pneumonia, and you are walking. He says, what I'm having trouble with is figuring out how you're walking. I looked him dead in the eye. I says, 1 foot in front of the other. Right. So I'm glad to see you are healing there, Carl. You know, hopefully you'll be out of the hospital pretty quick. I'm not surprised that you ended up picking up COVID-19 in the hospital. They keep a lot of diseases in there that they don't really require. Whether that's intentional or by nature of where it is, that I don't know. And I'm not going to speculate on that side of it. Oh, that's always fun. I don't blame you, Carl. I really don't. This is the question I've been fighting with myself. I'm supposed to go into the hospital to have my teeth removed. Thing is, nobody is contacting me to tell me anything about the procedure, recovery rate, dangers involved, nothing. And yet they booked me an appointment. Now, I'm not sure how they managed to pull that off. So I'm still debating what to do with it, but I figure I'll give myself till Tuesday. I'm supposed to go in next Sunday. I'm not betting on going at this stage because I got no answers. And for that matter, no will set up. And knowing these geniuses, somebody's going to come up and going to come and decide, oh, I'm sorry, he died again. And then I've got this whole fiasco I got to sort out. I was lucky. The first time that happened when they shipped me to the morgue, I actually was only 5. You know, somebody asked me the other day if I was suicidal, and I looked at them and looked at the Coke I was drinking and went, maybe, but it's going to be a long kill. You know. Oh, you have a thing called shadowing on your right lung. Maybe your left lung is trying to get a little too friendly with your right one. At which point you have 3 lungs. That could be fun. At least you'll be able to breathe better. I always question things like this, but then I question pretty much everything. Whatever you do, if something is going on, Carl, that you don't fully understand, absolutely push for an answer until it makes sense. Which, good luck with that on occasion. Okay. That little comment about the third lung issue reminded me of something interesting. Okay, and I'll have to get into this on another day, but this is the way this stream goes. All of a sudden, we got this other little tidbit. Let's go over there for a second. Now I'm going to have to pull up fortunately, I've got that here. I should have. Let me pull up this funny little volume 2. Scroll down to the Atlanteans. Oh, that's because I haven't got it in there. The Atlanteans their original name, by the way, was Alteran. Okay, long story short, the Atlanteans, who were here, who left. Okay, they were originally called, their actual race is the Alteran. But the reason that humans called them Atlanteans was because the ship they arrived on was the Atlantia. And when they were asked where they were from, the Atlantean, the Alteran said, well, we're from the Atlantia. And the humans immediately went, okay, they're Atlanteans. Okay. Okay, let's pop up here. What do we got? iVoice is asking, where do people go if they commit suicide? They go to the same place. You got to remember something about suicide. Okay, the kings, back when monarchies were in control, the kings made it illegal for you to commit suicide. Or more to the point, they made it illegal for you to commit suicide. It was okay to attempt it. The reason for it was because if you committed suicide, you were killing one of the king's people. The fact you did it to yourself didn't matter. What I couldn't figure out is what they were going to do with you. Put you in the cell until rigor mortis set in, or until you decomposed. One of the two, maybe both. But the church got involved and called that a sin. Net result, there's this neat little thought, and that's a dislocated knee. Ow. Do not do that, by the way. This is why I say getting into the lotus position is a really bad idea for me. Anyway, enough of that minor little sidetrack. And yes, my knee dislocates that easy. The church got involved and went, if you commit suicide, you're going to spend eternity in hell. Okay. And, they made all sorts of variations on it. It's great. If you commit suicide, this may be part of the reason you came here in the first place. Your contract with you, one of the things that person came here to experience was self-termination. Okay. Now, based on their actions and their choices over the course of their lifetime, will determine whether or not they deal with suicide attempts or families of suicide victims, or whether they commit suicide themselves. Okay. But people that commit suicide are not condemned to hell any more than somebody that walks around and throws money to the poor is confined to heaven. The fact that they do that is a choice for corporeal life. It's got nothing to do with where the soul ends up. Okay. Now, Derek's just added here. I've had swollen legs for over a year now, and it's totally changed my life. Sucks, constant pain, and I didn't trust hospitals. I need a true healer. Chris is quite possible. I met him. Okay. I've never worked with him regarding the healing, but I have met him years ago. Okay. Something that you might want to try, and I'm going to show you, well, I could. I got to ask you, Derek, are you in, and I forget, you probably told me before, but are you in Canada? Or are you in the States? Okay, because I will tell you, the thing that may be causing the swelling, and I know it caused the swelling in my leg, okay, is if your electrolytes are offline. That may cause it. Now, I am no medical doctor. Okay, not at all. Something else that you might want to try with you being open to an active healer. Talk to any Reiki master. Ozzy, how you doing? Glad you could join us. First thing Sunday morning, yeah. This time Sunday morning, I'm going to be gaming. Which, needless to say, according to the Christian religion, I'm going to hell for that one. But if you talk to the Christian world, to the Christian society, bearing in mind, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons now for for 40 years, almost 50 years now. Well, I was 10 when I was 13 when I started. Okay, which means I must have a sub-basement suite set up in hell. Because Lord knows, being the son of the devil and a D&D player and an active psychic, you can bet, according to the Christian society, I am doomed to hell forever. My idea of forever and your idea of forever may be dramatically different. Mine lasts about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, Terran time. I got asked the other day, I was down there. Quite seriously, I was down there. And, the guys at the gate, it's like, what are you doing here? You're not scheduled. I says, no, I came down to visit some friends. Not to worry, I'm passing through. This is just, and like I said, take the abnormal, what you see as abnormal. The odds are, for me, it's just a standard way of life. Okay, but no, Derek, the reality is, at least from my experience, the reality is what you may be dealing with is an electrolytic imbalance. And if that is the case, yeah, I know the one. I haven't gone to see it yet there, Carl, but I do intend on going. Actually, it's in the theaters here in Kelowna. Come to think of it, that's not a bad idea. I'll have to take a look at that. I wouldn't mind. I do want to go and see it. The problem is I don't like leaving the house, and for some weird reason, they won't bring the movie theater to me, thank heavens. Can you picture them bringing a movie theater to my house? This is going to be a problem. But no, the reality is, a swollen legs if you're in pain, you definitely want to get it checked out. Because one of the things that can cause pain, but the fact it's been there for a year, is actually technically good news, because if you do have a blood clot, it hasn't broken loose yet. And yes, a blood clot will cause pain. Can't say that from personal experience. Never tried the blood clot routine, not planning on it. Okay, I decided a stroke was a really neat idea. Talk about a stupid freaking move. Do not, if you get the choice between having a stroke or having a heart attack, take the heart attack. They're more painful, but they are much faster to recover from in most cases. Now, of course, the heart attack does have that added bonus of it may just kill you. Oh, okay, Carl, I appreciate that. Saves me the hassle leaving the house. Now I just got to figure out how to get Sky TV. But my ex can help me with that. And yes, I actually get along with my ex. But, going back, completely sidetracking myself here. Going back to the issue of the Atlanteans. When the Atlanteans have a third lung, okay, when the primary ship left and left all the satellites out there, the Atlanteans did their best. to mesh with the local Terrans. The ones in northwestern Europe found the humans and taught them how to connect with Esau, with Mother Earth. Hence the beginning of the pagan religion. Okay, the beginning of the pagan religion, the evolution of the Druidic sect, which were the scientists and original spiritual leaders. Then you had the ones down in the Mediterranean, that were down in that area, that retreated to the water. Pretty much by force, but they retreated to the water and became what many people call Atlanteans. They visualize Atlanteans being an underwater race. Well, what happened was, because the humans were a volatile race, the Atlanteans the Alterans retreated to the water, and that third lung proved to be the benefit. Okay, they ended up developing and being able to put that third lung to use to breathe water. Net result, underwater. You take care there, Carl. Thanks so much for joining us. Now the reality of it is, they became what I've in Race of the Worlds, I've listed them as merfolk. Their name will be changed in Volume 2. I'll still have it listed as also known as merfolk or mermen, the mermen, the mermaids, sirens. These are all offshoots of the same thing. Simply put, sirens are mermaids or Alterans, Atlanteans, that have one heck of a range where it comes to singing. Okay, kind of like the humans that can sing opera. Okay, I can't even listen to opera without getting a headache personally, but this is what works well for me. It's notes that I just don't like. I don't recall seeing that one. I do recall seeing, I think it was called Mermaid, starring Hannah, forget her name. Names and I are still having arguments. Okay, but yeah, and the fact of the matter is that sirens are simply another, if you will, race of the mermaid species. Okay, but it was really neat when I got into that conversation the other day. Got talking to an Alteran, what you know as an original Atlantean, and we got talking about it, and that's where I found the connection. There we go. Yeah, Derek's going, they had a special on mermaids back in 2012, 2013 on Discovery. But then it came out that they were faking all the videos. Yeah, there's a discovery. They probably should have had that checked before. Barnum and Bailey back in I think they were in the late 1800s, had a mermaid that they had on display, which turned out to be I believe it was a monkey they grafted with a fish. Okay. And again, but people were willing at that point, well, they're still willing to believe some really bizarre things. And this is why I tell people flat out, look, I'm not going to lie to you to make you feel better, but for pity's sakes, do not just assume that everything I tell you is 100% on the money. I'm not perfect. Do your own research. Okay, we had a guy come in. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, there you go. You're going to be a little busy. Yeah, I'll be back. Let's see. Where are we? Time. We are at 5:38 right now. So it'll be 6. It's 7 at 6:30, 7:30 my time. I'm coming back on here because I'll be reading, I think it's chapter 4. I think it's chapter 4, might be chapter 5 of The End of an Epoch. Okay. But I am glad you showed up, Nathan. And I wonder if, well, yeah, you're a little ahead of us. I'm 5:39 up here in Kelowna, BC. Yeah, you're down where it's a whole lot, hopefully, warmer than what it is up here. Actually, in all fairness, I'm not doing bad on the temperature up this end. But yeah, like I get finished here in about an hour, and then about an hour after that, I'll be coming back on. Okay, and we'll see where that goes. But with that in mind, the Atlanteans are an interesting race. And like I said, I think there's something like 8 or 10 different races that are listed in Races of the World as identifiers because I didn't have the actual names, which I have subsequently retrieved. Okay, but the neat part about it is many of the things that we look at here, especially when you look at the ships that people are referring to as orbs. Okay, the reality of it is that there are multiple different races that have them. It's like there are multiple races that utilize a cigar-shaped vessel. Okay, but we have to remember that none of these races that are commonly seen, not a one of them is even functionally remotely trying to take over or control anything on this planet. Okay. It's kind of like them trying to control humans is kind of like trying to herd cats. Humans trying to herd cats. What is the biggest? Joe's asking, what's the biggest UFO if someone's lucky enough to see it, or not so? Yeah, one not so high in the sky. Let's see, what's the biggest UFO to spot not so high in the sky? Debatably, probably the Srizazian, or the. Trying again. The Srizazian or the Pleiadian ships are likely the biggest, as in the Pleiadian ships look like a cigar with no windows and can be as much as 3 miles long in the atmosphere. Okay. So that's one of the bigger ones if you're looking for the overall size. Now, obviously, it's not the biggest ship available, but you did qualify not quite so high up. That one at least can get into the atmosphere without actually destroying everything by accident. A lot of them can get into the atmosphere, but they tear the envelope off the planet. Okay, and yes, a Pleiadian ship. The problem with the Pleiadian ship is humans will never walk on it and walk inside it without a complete environmental suit. Primarily because, much like the Earth's atmosphere will kill a Pleiadian, the Pleiadian's atmosphere will do exactly the same thing to humans. Okay, there are a couple of others. The Srizazian ship looks almost identical to a Pleiadian ship, with the exception of it has 2 banks of windows running the full length. Then you've got the Alpha Draconis, and I've got their name not right in front of me here. Don't think it's on this book yet. Let me just double check and see if I've got it here. If we bring up the Drake, because I remember coming across it the other day. Okay. Nope. That's not what I was looking for. That's the Ararahar. The Rarka. It's not in book 2. That's why. Got to be in book 1 then. So let's take a look at it. Matter of fact, that's where it would be. I was just about rude. Okay. Yeah, no, Chitwari, that's not what we need. Strazazians, which are descended, who is these? Tormenon. Oh, maybe it's still listed the same way. Yeah, that's what I get for trying to go through a computer at the same time, through a computer program at the same time. Ah, there we go. The Sarkon. What you know as Alpha Draconis, or what you might know as Alpha Draconis. Okay. You know, that's, I have no idea how that came up, but that's okay. Let us go back, minimize that. There we go. And, so, with the Sarkon, they have one, but it's only got a single window, a single bank of windows, about running the length of it. But these are all anywhere from 1 mile to 3 miles long. They would be your biggest ships. Okay. At least the biggest ones you'll find in the atmosphere. You may well have witnessed UFO, but here's something to keep in mind, Joe. When you're looking for UFO, go out on a cloudless night and watch the stars, because what happens is, let's say the point of the pen is your UFO, okay, or is the star, and you've got a ship. The pen is here, and there's your star. But if you see the star blink out of existence and then pop back in, and you'll see multiples of them obviously do it, as though something is passing between you and the star, the odds are you're looking at a UFO, also known as an unidentified flying object. Or you can call it any other number of names. Especially if you're one of these people that goes, well, I don't relate to that name, so I call it this. Have a happy. I like the way William Shakespeare put it, where he says, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Okay, but I have no doubt that I have no doubt, Joe, with everything you've seen going on around you, I have no doubt you simply were looking for the wrong thing, as in looking for a physically visible ship, and they aren't all physically visible. Some of them is simply they've got the camouflage or the reflective tools proper, where you just can't physically see them, but they're there. But they will still block out the area around them. You also look for a fringe, for a kind of a silhouetted edge. Okay, something that looks a little out of focus is the other way you can spot them. Okay, fortunately, given your tendency of spending so much time outside looking at things, watching the sky, watching the area around you, okay, it would not be a shock. Now, here's a bizarre question for you, though, there, Carl. Ozzy, oh no, that's Ozzy. Joe, very bizarre question for you. When you've been out on your walks, have you ever seen either three circular or even rectangular, 3, possibly 4, in either a triangular, an equilateral pattern, or a definitive square pattern on the ground, like as in a depression? The reason I'm asking is because there are ships that when they come in and when they land, they drop down their pads, and that's where they put the weight. Angels, how are you? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. And again, even with the orbs. Okay. Now, I will tell you something that's really kind of neat. When you look at Stonehenge, people have been looking for what Stonehenge was built for. Now, I have no argument about the alignment thing. Okay, it's a secondary purpose that they don't tell you about. Okay, and it was used to handle starships, kind of like atmosphere capable starships, to come in, land, and drop people off and or pick them up. I know of at least three types of ships that use those things as a landing pad. Okay, that being, the Udina, if they were coming in with a small ship, their primary atmosphere ships, you couldn't land on Stonehenge, although you could put Stonehenge inside it. Okay, but the Taurians did use it, and the Zeta Reticulans. Okay, all used them. By the way, the Norse came here with the Zeta Reticulans, so that would explain that. Yeah, well, angels, and I do feel for you, but with the shape you were in yesterday, saying it's better than yesterday is setting your bar really, really, really low. But I am glad you're feeling better. The neat part about it, so many people are afraid of orbs. Okay. Mind you, they're afraid of their own shadow in a lot of cases. Okay. Oh, and of course we have the little guys that are yay big, and I've got them. I wonder if I've got the name here. I know I haven't written much down about it. Let us take a look here. And we have the Ezon. Okay, you guys have seen, some of you guys have seen orbs. Okay, there is another race that you may well have seen called the Ezon, which inside, and people see them inside their eye. Okay, by the way, the little orbs that we were talking about, the Vrozic, okay, can be microscopic in size. Well, angels, I'm one of the few that when I get that sick, we're talking about literally hours. I mean, heck, when I had my near fatal heart attack, I was a really cute color. It was a really wonderful color of gray. I liked it. Right. But I was out of the hospital in under a day. But then I've got a healing rate that I would not recommend trying to match. But no, the Ezon are a race that looks like tiny, like those tiny little rods. Okay, but let me take a look at that. Not that one. This is why I've got 3 screens half the time. If we take Umion. Yeah, definitely don't have much there. The Umion are another race that is just, they happen to be, the Umion are photonic based. Okay, they are literally a light people. Yeah, and what do we got? Here we go. Joe's going, I've seen depressions in the cemetery on my walks, but I couldn't tell if it was actually a UFO or not. Haven't been back in days. Yeah, I can't imagine why. The funny thing there, Joe's just saying, I've stayed away from the cemetery for days now. Oddly enough, if you're looking to run into a UFO, if you really want to see one, staying in your house is usually not an effective strategy. Although I can understand why you're doing it. Of course, Angels here is going deep red and blown balloon head. Not my color or shape. Yeah, definitely not. Ozzy is saying, I've seen all sorts of stuff. Orbs, shadows, UFOs, tears in the fabric of reality. Seen a ghost like in the movies. Yeah, I mean, there's a simple saying for that, Ozzy, and that is truth is stranger than fiction. Okay, what most people call the paranormal is what my life is. You know, this is why I got a kick out of it. Somebody on a radio show the other day made an absolutely incredible comment, and I did not respond to it. Okay, I'm sitting there going because they turned. How you doing there, and Jeffrey? Glad you could join us. Well, haven't died yet. Not this week. You know, but this gentleman flat out told people that he knew more than I did, and I'm like, great, because I do not have all the answers. I've certainly got my own opinions, but and am I a little outspoken on them on occasion? Yeah, but I'm getting better. Now it's not so much on occasion as it is just about all the time. It's kind of like I used to be a procrastinator and put things off. Now I just don't bother doing it. It saves me a lot of hassles, by the way. But when you're looking at the orbs, understand many people, the reason that orbs are used as a ship or as a probe is because aerodynamically they are far more maneuverable. Okay. And yes, some of the weaponry they have, quite frankly, mankind would not have a snowball's prayer in defending against it. Okay. Especially when you take a look at a proper orb. Okay. When it hits something like a wrecking ball, in case you hadn't noticed, they're kind of round in shape. It's because they are resilient. Okay. Structurally, they are phenomenal. So if you run into something, the thing is pretty much hooped. The way I look at it, Angels, is from my standpoint, I don't mind if people know more than I do. I would prefer it. Okay, I really would. Because I feel really lost a lot of the time regarding what's going on. As in I'm looking at this going, I cannot be the only one that sees this. But apparently I am. I'm one of the few. Yeah, Ozzy's just saying, I have a property an hour and a half from town. I go out bush solo all the time. I can get quite nervy. Yeah. See, I don't leave my parking lot much. I'm not scared to death of people. I just don't like them. Don't take that personally. This is about as social as I get. Okay. Like I've got one restaurant within 3 blocks of me, one grocery store, and my ex that I go when I take my munchkin over to see her. Okay. Well, I'll take him over to see her mother, thereby being my ex. But from my standpoint, it's very simple. I don't go out in public very much at all. Okay. I will, however, when finances and invitations present themselves. Okay. If I'm going to a speaking engagement to actually speak, yes, I will go out. Okay. The nice little part about it is, from my standpoint, is this. For me, I was reclusive a decade before the lockdown happened. So, of course, I used to have to come up with reasons for not leaving the house. Lockdown happened, and I went, hey, I was told I'm not allowed to leave the house. I got to stay away from people. and I got to drink warm liquids. I'm going, I don't want to leave the house. I don't like being around crowds of people. I got a 30-cup urn at home. I'm good. My 30-cup urn, by the way, died. I didn't. But my urn did. This is where I go, I'm so depressed. Not. Okay. But, let me... Yeah, I have no doubt that. The funny thing is, Ozzy, that there is so much going on that people are only now starting to acknowledge. Okay. But there's a staggering amount going on. You know, I just get a kick out of some of the blurbs I've seen on some of the so-called ghost hunters, where they hear the slightest sound and go running out of the room scared to death. I'm going like, if you're going to claim to be a ghost hunter, would you mind sticking around to do the investigation? Instead of walking into a place going, yep, there's a ghost there, I'm leaving. To me, this is not research. To me, this is different. I don't know the word I'd use for it. There are some companies that are out there that do proper research. They'll go in and go, yeah, we heard something weird, so let's track it down, let's isolate it. What do we got? Joe's going, now strange lights back there. I know some graves have lights that light up when sunset is on, but I swear, I swear to God, I look real good. Again, I look real good and those lights move. There is something called, you know, when you there are entities out there. Okay. For instance, your fairy, you may be watching and they may be out and about there. It's unlikely you'll see it on each war eye. Okay, simply because you don't happen to be in Ireland. Okay, but there are, you know, the elephant, if there are any in that area, may well be playing havoc because they too can create dancing lights. That can create these lights that move around. And of course, the obvious issue is you may have fireflies. Okay, but I'm sure you've thought about the fireflies thing already. Okay, the nice part about it is whatever you do, Joe, understand there is no doubt in my mind, and I can only speak for me. There is no doubt in my mind that what you are witnessing is a real phenomenon. Now, curiosity, have you ever, when you've been watching the gravesite, seen a single light, either leave the gravesite or a single light come down to the gravesite and then turn around and two lights leave? Have you seen either of those two events? It's more a curiosity thing than anything else. But you may have already borne witness to something you didn't realize. Okay, this is why the question. But that's okay, you'll get to that when you hear the question. Not to worry, people, I will get something actual concrete, and not concrete, but actually solid for food after I get done this. Okay, perfect. Joe, what you've witnessed, sometimes when a body passes away, the soul hangs on to it for a long time, long enough for the body itself to actually be tucked away in a grave. Many times you're very right there, Ozzy. But what you're undoubtedly witnessing, Joe, when a soul hangs on to the body because it really didn't want to die yet, it hangs on long enough to get actually buried. And then eventually, sometimes right away, sometimes not, you'll spot the soul leave the body. At this point, leave a dead body, kind of like sitting in your car when the engine dies. You know, I mean, when it just seizes. You sit in your car for the longest time trying to figure out what to do. Sometimes what you'll see is that soul leave the body and take off. When you witness the other side of it, one light comes down, and then sometime later you watch two lights from the same site go up. This is a soul retrieval. Okay, this happens when the soul really doesn't get what's happened, and another soul comes down, takes them by the hand, and leads them up. Okay, leads them back to the spirit realm where they can carry on with their soul journey. But I'll tell you, if you've been a born witness to that, you've seen something that most people don't even recognize. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Don't know if that helps or if just simply corroborates or confuses. That's up to you. But the reality of it is that's what you're likely looking at. And Ozzy, with you watching the sky in life, you undoubtedly have seen a staggering amount. Neat thing about it is, yes, mankind has been, especially corporations and so-called leaders have been working very strongly to distract people from looking up. Didn't work all that well for me. Of course, being a natural astral traveler since birth, I found out if you go above the area, you can see down below and see what's going on. So I mean, these are just some of the things that we deal with. And I was looking at one the other day, and did I actually write it down? No, not on this sheet anyway. There is another, like I said, I've got probably 40 or 45 races. Where is it? Brainbox. We have 59. 107 minus 59. Try that again. Yeah. Races of the World Volume 2. I haven't finished adding races to it, but it's already got 48 races in it. The only difference there is I'm going to be putting it out with a lot more information to start with. Okay. So that's where that sits. So I mean, when we look now, the thing is, so far in the Races of the Worlds Volume 2, at first glance, I haven't seen any more ships or any more races that come out looking like orbs. Okay, but what I have seen is going to make your heads turn because they are not all bipedal. Matter of fact, there's a lot that aren't even close. That's why I've seen that. Where are we here? Joe, it's a very happy feeling to experience. Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yeah, Joe goes, it's a very happy, feeling to experience it. And every time I do, it's like, what the? I can understand that all too well. I've had that. I had that happen one day when I had a spirit walk through my door. Guy that identified himself as Mephistopheles, aka the right hand of Satan. And of course, that was kind of a neat little experience for me. For the other people, not so much a fun experience, but it was kind of neat. What is it called? I forget what the critter is called, but it just dawned on me what the actual name is. Oh well. I'm drawing a blank, but I know where I found it. But understand, when we're looking at orbs are easy to identify. If it's just a dust molecule, just a little dust flake that you're seeing, it will float along in a standard pattern. Orbs from any source have a tendency of making their own mind up. Okay. And if you were to take a look at the Torian ship that they showed on YouTube, okay, it was just a quick little short. All they showed it doing was it started off way back in the back of the picture, and all of a sudden comes out and across the screen, it's gone. And then you see two F-15s, I think they were F-15s, chasing it. It was pulling away. And rest assured, an F-15 has to bank to turn back around. Now, the pilots are phenomenal, but the reality of it is that a Torian ship, okay, will travel along and then it will change direction with no centrifugal problem. Way better on the banking side of things. You know, the one thing that I have noticed with many encounters with off-world races, many of the encounters I run into that I talk to people about, okay, because many of them generate a biomagnetic field, it will throw people's equilibrium off, making them dizzy, lightheaded, and nauseous. Okay, this is a normal side effect of a magnetic cross current. In all fairness, there, Derek, I haven't quite decided. Okay, I do know I've got cottage cheese and pineapple in the fridge, but if I've got bacon in the freezer, I'll probably thaw that out and eat too much of that for my own good. But I'm not dead yet, and I'm certainly not one to follow a strict diet. Aside from, I'm not eating it if it's not moving. If it's moving, it's off the table. I'm not eating it. It can go. Okay. Tell you the fun one is if you're ever cooking mushrooms, and I mean little button mushrooms. Okay, if you ever get one that gets up and runs off, you're not looking at a mushroom. You're looking at a spear knocked in. Okay, now I know they exist on this planet, and they do show up, but I've yet to hear of somebody accidentally ending up picking one and having it for dinner because they usually leave. Something about they're not interested in being eaten. Okay. But the spear knocked in literally look like a button mushroom. Oh, there we go. Derek's going, for us, it's chicken, kidney beans, and chopped fresh spinach. Nice choice. I do believe that eating healthy is a good idea. Okay. The fact I'm lazy, where it comes to cooking, I hate cooking for a couple of reasons. Can't time it right, can't taste it right, and don't have the spatial recognition to cook it right. So, not my favorite type of cooking. Like I told my son the one day, he wasn't feeling great. I looked at him and I said, I cook you dinner, but I think you've already had a rough day. Although I haven't killed him yet, with my cooking. But I will use the term cooking a little loosely. It's more like heating more often than not. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The neat part about it is I was when I started looking at the issue of the orbs, I'm going, okay, there's way too many of these to just call them orbs. Okay, so again, different orb ships you might be dealing with, and one of these is unlike the others. One of these does not belong. Okay, and that one, the Anunnaki, yes, their ships are orb in shape. Absolutely. But they're the size of a small planetoid. Okay. Then you have the Zotar, the Kinlar, the Talon, and the Torian. And many of the races use an orb-shaped probe. Okay, because the reality is the orb-shaped probes handle better in atmosphere than anything else. Especially when you realize they're run by they're propelled by gravitons. Okay, which is a great way to control, to control them, to operate them. Humans, when they figure out that gravity itself is not exactly a pull so much as a push. Okay, when humans figure this out, they'll make leaps and bounds in zero-G maneuver, in anti-gravity maneuvering. Okay. The answer to that, Derek, I did not. Okay, so I do apologize for that. If you'd be kind enough to restate it, I'll keep an eye open for it. This is exactly why I've mentioned, if you'd be kind enough to put things in questions in all caps, I can see them easier. Because the thing that caught my attention to this one, Derek, is the fact that you wrote Eisenhower in all caps. That's why it caught my attention. Okay, because it stood out. And that's why I say it really, like, even with Derek here, when even earlier you went Keith in block caps. Okay, that's what breaks it apart. Because you got to understand, a lot of the time when I'm looking at the chat room, the words run together. Okay, it's a thing with digital, with light, and with the fact my eyes really adjust funny. Okay, but yeah, Derek, if you'd be kind enough to repost that, I will absolutely take a look at it and do my best to answer. Because I'm guessing that was way back a ways. I started looking at the idea of orbs and what have you, and went, there are so many people that are wondering what's going on with orbs. And most people didn't realize, I'm sure of it, that orbs is only a shape. It is not a specific race. There is, and I don't know who it belongs to. I found a sketch of a ship that looks essentially like a mobile version of Saturn, which leads me to believe that is, well, I could be dumber than a bag of hammers, and probably am. Okay. Now, do understand, we call the planet Saturn, they don't. But I suspect that's who it's for. When I go through my notes, I'll be looking for it. Because as soon as I'm done here, correction, not as soon as I'm done here. As soon as I'm done my show I start at about 7:30. Okay. Raven. No. Although you are right, and thank you for pointing that out. Many, many people in spirit form will take on what looks like an orb as an appearance. Okay, so you are right. This is another one of a departing soul that will look like an orb. Technically, it's not. But orbs, there are, like, for instance, the Verosic are an orb-shaped being. Okay, they are simply a bubble of light. Okay, much like the Umion. Okay, difference between a Verosic and a Umion. Verosics are darker light. The Umions are bright white or yellow, depending on how your eyes work. Okay, but you are correct as far as a soul, quite often, because all a soul really boils down to is, to the naked eye, just a dot of light. Okay, so quite often it will look round. But, that's where that little discrepancy comes in. Just wondering what that was, then dawned on me. This is why I say just looking at the concept of what an orb is very, very generalized. Okay, and this is why today, so it'll be Monday at this point. And I'm not going to go and get my calendar right now. Okay, Monday I'm going to go back over. We did a show a while back on it. Um, honestly, not very often, Raven. Okay, more often than not, when you take a look at a water elemental, okay, water elemental, and I do have pictures of those, by the way. The water elemental and the earth elemental. Well, the water elemental will look like either a wave or a tornado, if you will. Okay, your earth elemental. I will answer that in 5 seconds here, Raven. The earth elemental looks much like a walking mountain in a lot of ways. Okay, your fire elemental, picture it. We're dealing with flames. Now, many of the races of the elementals look like they've got a face because that's how they can help to communicate with other races. They know this. They know that humans and that most corporeals, if a corporeal has a face itself, most corporeals with a face do not understand how you could possibly work or how you could possibly operate without a face. So people like the Cordon, and I forget the other two names offhand. The Cordon is your earth elemental. They develop what looks like a face to enable people to adapt to them. Where are we? Is a white, very small mini, like a white blanket with eyes, except pea-sized. That is likely a Yumion. Okay. No, they are not in book 1, but they are already included in book 2. Okay, but that Joe is likely a Yumion. Okay. I'm not entirely. I'm just looking at this. Oh, wait a minute. See, we get a little bit of a confusion here, although that wouldn't be a shock. You've got what is it's an orb that looks like a white blanket. I'm not quite sure how that's possible, but the tiny white orb that's usually around about pea-sized is likely a Yumion. Oh, and by the way, no, the Yumion and Verosic are not at odds with each other. Okay, neither one of them, they're not in conflict with each other at all. Okay, ultimately, this is one of those things, and that's one of the funny parts when you start looking at air elementals. Okay, if you watch the patterning on two storms as they get close together, you'll find their communication method is, politely put, just a little shocking because they do tend to speak with lightning bolts. Okay, not fight with them, just speak with them. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Okay, there is a lot more. And, for those of you that have this wonderful idea and wonderful question, where did I get all my information? 59 years of interacting with these guys. Okay, and we're not going to count the number of lifetimes. Because not every lifetime did I do this, by the way. I did have some lifetimes that were extremely normal, if you will. See, 1828 to 1833. Yeah, so from about 18, would have been 1810. Yeah, about that. Henry, much as I would love to do that, I have no idea. I only just now see where it says Top Chat. But this is where I'm way outside my league. Okay, in many cases. I'm wondering. Oh, that's why. Okay. Just hit that. Yeah, I kind of figured it was. That's why I asked. That's why I asked about Oh, okay. No problem there, Joe. Yeah, Joe goes, sorry about the confusion on that question. But I've also witnessed that type also back there. That thing was moving in all sorts of directions. Oh, no, that's my living room, actually. I'm sitting in the dining room, but I had to move the computer because I've got to empty the office. My son's moving back in there, Raven. So I had to empty the office, and I wasn't quite set up to put everything in place in the bedroom. So this ended up here, but tomorrow I may be back in the room. Probably will be given the situation. Wait a minute. I will not be on here in an hour. Okay, I said earlier in the show I'd be on here in an hour. Right. What do we got here? Oh, okay. Henry, thank you so much for tracking that down. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. Yeah, Henry's just going. Derek asked about a secret meeting between aliens and President Eisenhower. And we've actually looked at this before. The answer is yes. Everything I've been told says not only did Eisenhower and Hitler have meetings with off-worlders, different factions and different races, by the way, but so did most of the other major powers at the time. However, none of them exchanged combat weaponry or tactical insight. Okay, there was a lot of communication going on, but it was not in the war effort. Had it been in the war effort, rest assured, if the off-worlders had been given go-ahead to solve the war, we wouldn't be speaking anything that remotely looks like we are today, because they just wiped out the conflict. But did secret meetings, actually it wasn't a meeting, it was multiple meetings between many of the different presidents in their own heads of state, or capitol buildings or whatever. Okay, when I talk about meetings with presidents, I don't mean all the presidents in the same room. I mean, an alien race goes and talks to this president, another alien race talks to this one, another one talks to this third one. You get the picture. Okay, but from my understanding, this whole idea of exchanging technology for people, let me ask you this. Number one, no, not from anything I've come across. But let me ask you this. When humans go and tag a fish or tag a bear, do they talk to the other fish or the other birds? Okay, and ask and go, look, we'll give you technology if you let us kidnap a couple of your people to run tests on them. Okay, the logic behind it is severely flawed, and I don't know who came up with the idea. I know what came and where. I know the situation that proposed the concept that reptilians were running the world. I know where that came from. Okay, that whole thing came from the movie and the series V. But were there meetings? The answer is yes, but not, from my understanding, were there any contracts revolving around aliens being given permission to abduct humans, a certain number. They just don't do that. I mean, they do abduct, don't get me wrong. But they're not about to talk to what they see as an inferior but dangerously curious and temperamental race. They're not going to ask for permission. Okay. I mean, let's face it. Many humans, they see a UFO, they open fire, and then they say, "Are you friendly?" And I'm thinking, like, okay, if somebody shoots at me, I'm not about to respond in a friendly fashion anymore. It's just the way I am. Okay. Where are we here? Yeah, Henry, again, thank you so much for the issue around the top chat. I didn't even know what that was. Still don't really, but I switched it to live chat as soon as you asked, which is amazing that I found it at all. But hey, what the heck, I can work with it. In any event, guys, we're at the 2-hour mark here. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you again for sharing your time with me. I really do appreciate it. Okay, if you like the stream, do make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then share the daylights out of it. Really appreciate your time. I will be back again tomorrow. Okay, but until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.